Okay. Yes. So our first problem is like merge k sorted list. So you are given an array of k linked lists, and each of them is in a sorted ascending order. We have to merge all these linked lists into one sorted list and then return the result. Like 1, 4, 5, 1, 3, 2, and this. So these are all individually sorted in ascending order, and the list that you will open that should also be in a what do you say sorted ascending order. So you can see one followed by this one, and then two, and then these three we are taking. You can take this four or this four, and then 5 and 6. And if it is empty here, these are some of the constraints. The length won't exceed your 10 ki power 4. Yeah. So what should be the brute force here?
Yeah, so regarding to brute force, we can merge two lists, yeah, and produce one and then repeat same step, yeah.
Yeah, that sounds good.
But will that be a real brute force?
You want to share? Yeah, I think merge sort is telling kind of.
Yeah, like
I
if
don't
you
think
have,
so. It will brute force optimize.
yeah, if you have two leads, they are sorted, you merge them, and then you keep on merging one by one. Is it like that, or?
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
yeah, same way. He is taking two lists, merge, keep on repeating the same process.
Yeah,
This
because I think
yeah.
if you do it anyway, this way or maybe, so that will also be an optimized way of merging it, correct? Or
Yeah,
am
it
I
looks like
missing
that only. Yeah.
something? Because
No,
I
it's.
didn't
I
find
think there's
anything
a.
about brute force here, right?
I don't. Yeah, brute force. What would be there? Merge sort only will be the brute force, right?
Or
I don't.
maybe, yeah, that
I
is
think
true.
just copy everything in a vector and then sort it and then make that vector as a linked list and then return the add of that particular linked list.
Yeah, I think that will be a brute force. Yeah.
Say
But
extreme brute force.
yeah, but anyway, everything is sorted here. So again, creating a vector, yeah, yeah, that may be the only way we can do as a brute force, right? Yeah. Okay. So what he was saying, Nick was saying, that is also an interesting way to do it, right?
Yeah.
Merge two of them always.
Want to share, Nick, the solution? Or Abhishek?
I used another one. I used the Q.
Okay,
So not a brute force, yeah.
Okay, so you are trying to use a priority queue and then do the merging?
Yeah,
Okay.
some kind.
Then you can go ahead, share it. Let's see. So node with the its address you are pushing inside the priority key. I mean priority queue of size k, something like that, right? Nick is there?
Do you want me to share my solution? Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay, let me found it. I'm a bit. Okay, I'm going to open it. I did it. Okay, something like maybe here. Let me check. I'm not sure. Okay, yeah, this one. Can you see my screen? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have array of lists, yeah, and I create priority queue. Type of priority queue is list node, yeah, and I'm creating a comparator, yeah, in order to compare two lists, yeah, and I am comparing them based on head, yeah, and then I just put all lists to my queue. I also create some kind of pre-header because it's easy to work when I have pre-header, yeah. And then I just traverse through the queue until it has something, yeah. And I add a new element to tail, yeah. It's straightforward. It's I suppose it's well-known solution, yeah. It's some kind of.
But actually, see, this is a good one, but you are trying to push everything into the priority queue.
Yeah, all list.
Yeah, so therefore your priority queue size might grow to the number of elements in the all the list, right?
Not all the list. Yeah, each list, my priority queue will contain all element from array. Yeah.
Isn't it? Or
You
yes,
can
I think
reduce it
so,
by
right?
taking first element of each of the list and putting into queue, right? And whichever is minimum, you take.
Yeah, then the size would be set to k at each of
Yeah,
the iteration.
yeah. In fact, I have what we are discussing. Let's say that size of list is k, yeah, and I put just
Oh, okay, okay.
k element to list, and as soon as I take element from priority queue, I will add
Yeah,
again.
yeah. My bad. Actually, I didn't see that. Yeah. So he is doing it on line 27, 20, 29. He's just putting a single element at the head of the list.
Yeah.
Oh, line 29, yeah, queue. I mean,
Hmm.
going to the other node, and if it is not null, then he's adding to the queue. Yeah, makes sense.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah. This makes sense,
So,
and it's an optimum way of doing it. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
you want to share, Abhishek?
Yeah, I will share my code. So after the brute force one, what we can do is we can try merging each of the adjacent uh, vectors or linked list. And then since it is sorted, so we can just try the same code which we use in this question, merge to sorted list. So we can try merging both the linked list, and then we will get some linked list, and then that linked list will be used uh, to merge with the subsequent linked list. So for example, this is the first case. We will first merge these two linked lists, then we'll get some linked list here, and then this linked list will be again merged with this particular linked list. So we'll get some linked list here as well. And if there is some more linked list, then this particular linked list will be merged with this one. So in this way, at last we'll get some final answer, which will be our k merge sorted linked list. So that can be a optimization to our brute force solution.
So this is
So
like a merging based on intervals, right?
yeah, we just merge the adjacent elements and keep merging it until we get to the end of the list.
Mm-hmm.
So if we go with the code here in the main code, I just assign the answer as null at first, and then I just iterate through the whole list
Mm-hmm.
and keep merging the the elements with the answer variable. So here, instead of merging the first two elements, here what I did was I merged a null linked list with this one. So here I will just get the zeroth linked list or the first linked list.
Mm-hmm.
And then this linked list can be merged with the second one.
Mm-hmm.
And this can be again merged with the third one.
Mm-hmm.
And this can be again merged with the fourth one.
Mm-hmm.
So this is what the code is doing here. Here we are just merging it and storing it in the answer. And
Mm-hmm.
then finally we just return the answer. And if we go with the merge one, here I have used the recursive one, where if any of the two linked list is pointing to null, we just return the other linked list. Otherwise, we find the smallest element and assign that particular as the current node, and then move to the next pointer in the linked list. And
Mm-hmm.
since we are taking one of the values, so the place where we take it from, we just move it by one index. So we do L1 dot next or L2 dot next here, and then we just return the particular node.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. This is a good way of doing, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so now if we go with the time complexity of this, since there are k total linked list and the uh, the merge operation performed on each linked list depends on the size of the linked list. So at worst case, we can take this 500 as the size. So let's take this as n. So for each of the iterations, that is k iterations, we have to perform a merge operation where n denotes the size of the linked list and k is the total number of linked list. So this is the total number of this will be the time complexity of this approach.
Right. Yeah.
Now if we see here, this is 500 and the list dot length is 10 to the power 4. So this factor k into n will go will be around 10 to the power 8 or 10 to or 10 to the power 7. So this is why this is not an optimal approach. So we further need to optimize our approach here.
Mm-hmm.
So here we can try doing for the heap approach where we just push the first node of each of the linked list, and since we are using a min heap here, so min heap will give me the smallest element, and whenever I take smallest element, for example, when I take one, I'll pop one out of the priority queue, and I will next point it to 4 and send it back to my priority queue. So again, this will sort it, and then it will point to 1. So I'll just include 1, and similarly, now the pointer will point to 3, which will be pushed in my priority queue. So this process will repeat, and finally I will get all the merged linked list as a key points. So I can take a temporary pointer and then keep assigning the next pointer to whatever element we get at the top of the priority queue.
Right.
So here again, if we try to analyze the complexity, uh, okay, so let's take n as the length of worst case, n as the length of the linked list, and k as the size of the total number of linked list. So at max, we are having k elements in the priority queue. So this will give us a log k factor. And since we have so the length of each of the linked list is n, so at max I guess we have to iterate till so the total number of elements will be n cross k, if I am not wrong here.
N log k, right? Isn't it?
Uh,
So if n is the
is it
maximum
n? Okay.
least of the
Yeah,
biggest least, the size of the biggest least in your least array,
yeah,
so it will be n log k.
yeah. Okay. So I think this is the complexity of this approach.
Mm-hmm.
So in previous one, why it was n into k? Because merge sort only we are using, right? So
No,
it
no,
should
he
be
was
n.
not using merge sort. He will come to merge sort later.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
there we just were merging the adjacent elements.
He was just merging them. Yeah.
Or moving the pointers and then merging. Okay.
Right. Right.
Mhm.
Yeah, uh, so again, this is a optimized approach, uh, and we can again opt for some other approach, like the divide and conquer,
Yeah.
where
But only downside of this is we are using extra space of for that
uh,
priority
uh,
queue.
yeah, k would be the space
Yeah, k would
complexity,
be space
since
complexity.
at max k elements are present.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll just go through the code of this priority queue solution.
Sure.
Here I've assigned a min priority queue, and the priority queue will have two. So it will have two elements, which is the first is the value itself, for which I have to sort it, and the other would be the index of the linked list pointer. So this has to be there so that I can maintain which particular element is used at the top of the particular mini or min priority queue. And then I will first push all the elements. first I need to check if any of them point to null or it is empty. So if it is empty, then it means that the linked list points to null. If it does not, then I can just push the value and the particular index. Now iterating to the priority queue, I can just take out elements, and then I can just take the value, which will be the first parameter, and then I'll can just assign it to my next pointer of the uh, answer linked list, and then I can point to the next pointer of the answer variable, and then again I have to see if the next exists or not for the current linked list. If it does not exist, for example, if I am at 5, for 5 the next does not exist, so I do not have to push null in my priority queue. So I can just check it if the next exists or not. If it exists, I will first move to the next pointer, and then I will just push the value and the index of which linked list I was using. So this is the approach. And again, the linked list was initialized with the head pointer, but the values were copied from the first next pointer. So this is why I need to return the answer dot next. So answer will have some garbage value, and we don't need the first garbage value as our answer.
Yeah.
So now again, this is one of the optimized approach for this problem, but again we can move for some other approach, which is divide and conquer. So I'll just make this I'll I'll make this list bigger, and then okay, it is not happening. Leave it. Let's take this. Uh, so let's take the same linked list again, which is 145 here, and then we need to merge this 4 linked lists. So here the divide and conquer approach would be we just merge the adjacent 2 nodes. So here I merge the first 2 nodes, and then here I merge the first 2 nodes. And after I merge these 2 nodes, I will get again pointers of the linked list, and then I can merge those 2 nodes back again to get my final answer. So this is like a divide and conquer approach where we are dividing a problem into 2 halves, and at each step the halves are becoming smaller and smaller. So if this would had been 6 elements, then uh, again I could have got one more linked list here, and this linked list I could have combined with this one uh, to get my final answer. So at each step, the total number of linked list I need to process will be divided by 2, or if it is odd, then so if it is n here, this can go max of ceil of n by 2. So at each step, we are dividing our problem into further halves. Now here it will be ceil of n by 4, and then finally this will just somewhere go till 1. So we are just decreasing our problem to get our final answer.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So
So
to the entire
this,
you'll be dividing, right? Mid. I
yeah,
mean,
yeah.
yeah. So, okay. And then once you reach, okay, got it. Single is you start combining.
Yeah, this can be done using this approach, I guess, to where we divide the array itself into 2 halves, and then we merge the previous half and then the subsequent half. And then when we get 2 linked list here, we can merge them. This
Yeah.
is same as doing this, where we just merge the adjacent 2 nodes.
Hmm.
So this can be again done in many ways. I can assign. So after this 2 are merged, I will get some linked list here. Similarly, here I will get some linked list. So I can store this 2 linked list in one of the vectors. Similarly, when I merge this, I can store this in one of the vectors, and then finally when the size of the vector itself points to 1, means we are left with only one linked list. So I can just return the only element present in the vector. So here we are using the space to store the merged linked list at each of the iterations. So by this approach, we are storing elements in some other vector. So here I first check if the vector is itself empty or not. If it is empty, just return none. Otherwise, until the size of the vector itself point becomes 1, uh, I will keep dividing the uh, vector itself into merging the adjacent elements I use. So first I store the value of n, and here I just need to check if the value is odd, because for odd cases, what will happen is if this is not present, then this two will merge to this vector, but this vector will be left out. So I can just copy it to my next iteration. Because for example, 6 will be so from 6 I will get 3 linked lists, but here only I can merge 2 linked lists. So here I will get 1 plus 1 linked list which I did not merge somewhere. So this is why I will get 2 here, and then these 2 linked lists can be merged to 1.
Yep, makes sense.
So this is for the if statement, and then otherwise I can merge the 2 adjacent elements and then copy it back. So I can just push it back in my vector. And finally, I can just swap the current vector which I was using with the previous vector. So this will just keep swapping. So this means that if this is a vector, and for the first, after the first iteration, I get this vector. So I'll copy this vector into this memory space. And this process will keep repeating, and when the size becomes 1, I can just return the only element. So this is why I was performing a swap here, where the vectors are itself swapped, and we can just return the final element, because the while loop will terminate when only one element is present in the given vector.
Okay.
So again, here I was using the same recursive code for merging for the subsequent elements in line 72. Now, if we analyze, yeah,
That X vector we can't avoid, line number 66.
yeah, we can avoid. We will go to that approach as well. Let's see the space and time complexity for this approach, and then we can move to the constant space approach. So, so how many times this process will repeat? This process will repeat first for n iterations, second for n by 2, similarly for n by 4. Okay, so this n is taken as the k here, which is the size of the vector. So if calculate this series, this will come out to be 1 plus 1, which is twice of n. So this is the number of iterations I am performing, but in each iterations, again I am merging the list.
I think that if you take n outside, no, that series boils down to log n, I think. 1 plus 1 by 2 plus 1 by 2 square, 1 by 2 cube.
No, 1 by 2 by 1 by 4.
Plus 1
This
by 8.
series is evaluated to 1, I guess, because I'll just draw how this works. So if we take a square and this is 1 by 2,
Yeah, it will be 1.
then this is 1 by 4. Similarly, this will be 1 by 8. So since the size of the square was 1, this will always so the sum of this will be always 1.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So okay. But I'm not sure about this. Let's see how complexity I've given the solution.
Okay, so you're still saying that the merge will always be there again, right? So that merging will always
Yeah.
happen. Yeah.
Yeah. So this is why they are taking it as k into n. So the k comes from this n term, and then the total number of merge.
Yeah. So there will be kn. Okay. Mhm.
Yeah. So so the n, this is the number of iterations which we are performing, and
Mhm.
again in each of the iterations we are merging. Let's say capital N is the time required for merging two elements. So this capital N will be for each of the iterations as well. So this
Mhm.
is why this will come out to be capital N. This small n is just k here, which
Mhm.
denotes the size of the list.
Individual list.
So this will be the time complexity, and again, if we try to calculate the space complexity, we are starting from n by 2, and this will go up to 1. So again, this will come out to be n. If we take out n common, this series will evaluate to 1. So we are again using a space complexity of n here,
Mhm.
or k, which denotes the size. But to avoid this space complexity, but maintaining the same time clock complexity, we can try merging all these things in place. So uh, we can use the same vector which they have provided, and we can just store elements there as well. So if we are merging these two elements, I will store it here. If we are merging these two elements, I will store it to the next empty position, which is the second position here. Similarly, if there were two linked lists here, then I could just merge it and store it in the third position. So in this way, again, if I'm starting with k here, I can at max get k by 2 seal of k by 2 elements.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But I'm not storing it somewhere. This is the index till where I need to further merge in my current iteration. So in this second iteration, I just have to merge from 0 to C of k by 2. This seal is taken just for the odd cases because in odd cases one linked list will be left out. So we can just directly copy it to the next empty position.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So the heap
so
was better,
this
right?
is, yeah, I think the heap was better. Okay, I think the page, I'll just reload the page. Okay. Yeah, is my page visible?
Mm-hmm. No,
It
no, no, no.
was just now. Now it's still loading.
Okay.
You have a network lag, when you're talking also, it breaks sometimes.
Okay. So here, since till it loads, here what we could do is for each of the iterations, we can just keep track of the current uh, last index, which we can use for filling the merge list. So if the current will always start from 0, and after I merge, let's say I and uh, I plus 1 linked list, I can just copy it to the current location, and then I can increment my the current index. This makes sense. And then the size of the link, the size of the vector itself can be this current, because this current points to the last element where the where I need till where I need to iterate from zero. So let's see. So, okay, I will just open it. Yeah, now it is visible.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so here I just keep track of the last pointer, which would give me the total number of list I need to iterate in my current iteration. This can be taken as the size of the like in the previous call. So in the previous solution, where I was using the size of the current vector, instead of that, here I am using this last, which will point to my total number of linked lists which I need to process in my current iteration. And here I just keep track of the current pointer. So this current pointer will point to the empty place where I need to copy the merged linked list. For example, here when I merge these two continuous elements, I will first assign it to my given the vector linked list, linked list vector, and then post increment my current count. So this is just this is just this. I just merge this to linked list and then copy it to my vector with index 0 and then just increment my current. So this is why this current always points to my next empty location where I can copy my merged linked list. But again, this might happen that in some of the cases where the total number of elements are odd, so the last element will be left out since we cannot merge it with any possible linked list. So we will just copy it to our next iteration. So this here we just check if the size is odd number, then we just copy the last element of the particular iteration, and then we just copy the current. Uh, at last, the current will always point to the uh, size of the vector where I need to process in my next iteration. So I'll just copy this, and the place where the size becomes 1, there I can just move out of the while loop, and then I can just return the only value present.
Makes sense.
Okay.
Yeah, and here I think, yeah, here I have used the iterative version of the merge linked list, because the recursive one would be using the stack. So instead of it, we can just use this iterative version where we check if either of them points to null, we just copy the other pointer. If not, then we just take out the smallest value and then point it to my current element. And if I am copied some value, then I will just move to the next iteration of the next element of the that current linked list. Similarly for the next one. And then again, this is same as the the brute force one, where the first pointer will always point to some garbage value, and we will start copying elements from the next pointer of the starting pointer. So this is why I just returned the s dot next.
Okay. So you're using that S as a dummy pointer.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
No, not doubly.
Mm-hmm.
This is like let's take it as a some starting pointer, but all the values which will be copied will be from s dot next, not
Mm-hmm.
from s,
Yeah.
because the first
Mhm.
I don't know the first value which I will copy.
Oh.
So this is why the values will be copied from s dot next.
Oh. Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah. So this is the in place the divide and conquer one. Uh, I will just stop sharing.
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks for the detailed explanation. Yeah, that was good.
Let's, yeah, it's same thing what I have done. So shall we move to next or shall we go through it?
Yeah, let's go through it because you have a Python version, right?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, it's same like what Abhishek mentioned. Like if the length of list is zero, you'll return. And if there is only one list, I mean, out of many lists, if you have only one list, just you return that one. Otherwise, we are taking the mid of a list and calling the recursion on both, like up to mid and mid from mid to the last. I mean, left and right, and and once you get left and right, we'll call the merge function. And once you enter the merge function, I take a dummy node and put a pointer on this. And now, as long as L1 and L2 are not null, so whosever value is less, you append that to this L3, the dummy node, and then increase with that L1 pointer. And this is the vice versa, like other way around. Like if you have L2 is lesser, then you append that. And after doing all these things, if you are left, let's say with L1, then you append directly that entire list to this. And if you are left with L2, you append directly. And at last, dummy node dot next.
Okay,
Because
so
there's
yours implementation is almost like the merge sort template, correct?
exactly it's
Okay.
almost exactly
Uh-huh.
left, right, and merge.
Okay, yeah. So this makes sense. So your iterative, the first one from line 7 to 15 is the
Merging.
place where actually you're doing the merge sort.
Mhm.
And then this is line 16 to 31, the function merge actually merges the two lists one at a time.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so that makes sense. But then how do you, keep a tab like you are only merging two lists at a time? Because if it is length is 0, you return, length 1 is also you
First
return
list
on 10, 11. Okay, therefore, whatever
from
is left over is only two lists at a time to merge. Okay.
yeah.
Okay, so
So
all
if
the
you have
checks what you was.
multiple lists, so if you have multiple lists, you'll do two at a time. Third one again, you'll do it
Single.
aggregate of one and two. Then you'll pass that again recursively, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, so the checks what Abhishek was doing, because he had to explicitly do all these checks, right? So that is taken care by all these recursive functions and the
Internal.
special case of 8, 9, 10, 12. Those.
Zero
Okay.
length and one.
Uh-huh. Okay. So this
This
is
is
one
easier
template,
to
or else
read.
you'll have to explicitly do the way Abhishek was doing.
Yeah.
So if you remember this, this is good, or else
Yeah.
that will be a meticulous way of doing it. But yeah, but those things will be covered completely.
Okay. This is like
Or else,
it got remembered because it's exactly bind research. You divide into left and right, and you call a merge function.
yeah, that's perfectly fine. But if you look at the from line 8 to 12, even
Ah,
though it looks
okay.
trivial, okay, they are
That's
not easy to come up with at the time of interview, correct?
true.
So
Yeah.
the way he was going explicit, that is one way of doing it. Or else, if you know about this template very well, then yeah, this is the way we can do. Yeah, I'm not saying that it should not be difficult to remember though, because you have to merge two lists, right? If you can't merge two lists, then there are only two options: either it will be empty or it will have one list.
One
So then
list.
that is the two base cases you have to take care in this merge key list or the merge sort.
Yeah.
Yeah. So either you break it down this way or you do the iterative way, what Abhishek was explaining. Yeah. I think this was a good one too because this was a different one. You know, it's like following the standard merge sort template, correct?
Approach, yeah, exactly.
Hmm. Makes sense. Actually, you also post this solution in Discord.
Yeah.
Along Abhishek, you too.
And yeah, this is your just priority queue, the one where Abhishek was showing. Like you are taking a priority queue and creating a dummy node, and to that dummy node, I'm assigning a pointer, right? And for every node in the list, if your node is not null, so we are putting the node's value. Now, what is the ID of that node? Like in Python, if you skip it, it'll have an error. So you need to put ID. It's an internals of Python here, and which node address we are putting here. And as long as this is not empty, you keep on popping, and since current was on the dummy node, so whatever node you have popped, so current dot next will be, you append that node to this and you increase your pointer, and for the next call again, node ka next val and ID of that node and the node's next address.
Hmm.
Yeah, so heaps of, I mean, heap. So but the difference, both are n log n, right? I mean, or this is n into k. I don't think so any difference is there in the time of this and this, is it?
Should not because this is merge sort.
This is much short, n log n also it will be into how many list we have, let's say k list, so k n log n, and this should be also
Uh,
same. What
so
do you
that is
say?
k log n log k, right? Both of them should be n log k, isn't it?
If let's say each the length of each list is k, then k log k for merge sort and n such lists are there in your nested list, so n into k log k, right?
Well, I don't know how we take it, but I was thinking like if you have a list, which is an array, and the
Yeah.
array size is k, so then that will be log k, right? Because you are actually breaking the k list each time. But maximum in a k list array, one of the list has a maximum size of n, okay, would
Yeah.
be in the worst case. So therefore, I'm considering that one n into log k, you know.
Okay, got it. Yeah.
So for
Sure.
that, either you do it the divide and conquer way or the merge sort way, what you're doing it, or so it's still going, or the priority queue. So it's still going to remain the same.
N log k.
Yeah, but only priority queue is going to consume more space. And in this case, also if it's a merge sort,
All start.
yeah, it might consume space. I don't think so. No, we don't do that, right? Because it's at least you are actually doing that in a constant space when
This
you're
one like
merging it.
will be the internally only whatever space, but that won't be counted as extra space, right?
Why internally? Actually, you're coming here, right? Okay, you have to
Recursion
do the
way.
stack. Okay.
Uh,
Right. Yeah, stack will
Otherwise,
happen.
this is a constant operation, space operation.
Yeah. So almost
Yeah,
all
I
of them
think
are the same.
slicing the instead of slicing the linked list or the list, we could have just passed the pointers or the pointers which is left pointer or the right pointer
Okay,
at which
and
we are trying to slice because even the slicing operation will contribute to the time complexity here.
Mm.
open.
Yeah, but we don't save much things in this, right? All of them
Yeah,
actually
yeah.
tend to come to the same time complexity and space complexity.
Microscopic level we have.
Yeah, but at least we are able to differentiate. That is important, correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Let's move to next then. So next is like longest arithmetic sequence. So you are given array of integers, and okay, you have to return the length of longest AP sequence. So it's like, I mean, you can see 3, 6, 9, 12, the entire, I mean, 6 is greater than 3, 9 greater than this, and they are maintaining a difference of 3 also. So length of 4 you will return. And here 4, 7, and 10, difference of 3, and they are increasing also 4, 7. And again 25, 10, 50 here. Yeah. So what should we find? How should we proceed here?
Okay. So this is the longest arithmetic subsequence.
Hmm.
Yeah, the brute
Brute.
force one would be just generate all the subsets and then
Hmm.
check if the adjacent difference is same in that particular subset or not. And just keep track of the longest particular
See.
subsequence of that type.
Okay. So you're saying we will have to use something like 3 nested for loops, correct, to generate all of these subsets.
The two
Mm,
for
Is it subset or is it subsequence, right? And it's not
it is
subset.
subsequence, yeah. So we need to
Uh-huh.
generate all the subsets. So it will be 2 raised to the power size of the
and
given list.
Okay, but will that be okay? So yeah, it's not even
Yeah,
going to
that
be
is a
3 n
extreme
square.
brute force.
Yeah. Okay, subset, and then you do that. Yeah, so it is going to be exponential. Okay.
Yeah,
generating subsequence is exponential. Either you take or you don't take. So in elements and two options are there.
yeah, 2 raised to the power n to just generate the subset, and then a,
Checking
other
the
iteration would take another n. So it would be of the form n into 2 raised to the power n.
it's hilarious.
Hmm. Yeah, so exponential that itself is a dominant part. So yeah. Okay. So if that is not the way, then what is the other way of doing it?
You maintain
Yeah,
a
the
map. Yeah, go ahead. Shankar.
LIS one can be used. Yeah, the idea of LIS, so we can keep track of the previous difference.
Okay.
Yeah, so we won't start from 20, but the answer will always start from 1,
Mm-hmm.
because if only 20 is present, then answer can be 1. Now, when I start from 1, I will keep checking all the elements previous to 1, and
Mm-hmm.
I will just find the difference of that
Mm-hmm.
particular element and with 1. For example, 1 minus 20, which will be minus 19. So
Mm-hmm.
this can be one sequence with the adjacent difference to be minus 19, where I include 20 and 1. But again, I need to see if at 20 there is any sequence present with the difference as minus 19.
Mm-hmm.
So there is no sequence at 20 with minus 19. So this is why I will just so here I will just keep my answer to be 2. This 2 comes when I take the adjacent difference to be minus 19 by including 1 and 2 over 20 and 1.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Now when I come at 15, I will do the same, which is with 20 and 15. The difference will be minus 5,
Mm-hmm.
and then I will check at 20 if there is any sequence starting at ending at 20 with differences minus 5. There isn't. So with minus 5 as the difference, I can
Mm-hmm.
get a sequence of length 2,
Mm-hmm.
because I can include 20 and 15. Similarly, 1 and 15 would give me a difference of 14. Again, at 1, there is no sequence ending at 1 with difference of 14. So in that case, the length of the sequence would be 2.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when I come at 3, I'll just keep doing the same thing. Uh, like 20, 3 minus 20 would be minus 17. I will check at 20 if there is any sequence ending at 20. Uh, the difference is minus 17. There isn't. So 2 will be my answer. Similarly, for 1, it would be 2, and the length of the sequence would be 2. For 15, again, the difference would be minus 12, and the length of the sequence would be 2. Because at 15, I don't have any sequence ending at 15 with length as minus 12. Similarly,
Mm-hmm.
for 10, I will do the same. For 5, I will do the same. And for 8, I will do the same. And
Mm-hmm.
finally, I just need to keep track of the max length. So what will be the max length? Either 1 will be the max length. No, no, not 1.
2 at least, right?
Because
Mm-hmm.
yeah, at least 2 if the size is greater than 1.
Mm-hmm.
This can be, so we just need to keep track of the length of each of the subsequence and the common difference of the adjacent terms. So any of these can be answered. We just need to find the maximum. So we will just keep track of the max length. And how to keep track of this? We can just we can use a map to keep track of the length of the sequence with ending at particular index with a particular common difference.
Mm-hmm. Okay, but you started with the brute force, and then you saying you can use a map to store the differences, so that would be optimized way of doing it, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So if I move to the implementation, I've used the either of this map can be used or unordered map can be used for each of the elements of the array. And I've always initialized my answer with 1. And first I take the common difference of the two elements and I set the value as 1. The value is set to 1 because if the common difference is not present for the previous value,
Mm-hmm.
then the size would be 2, which is 1 plus 1. So this is why I'm just keeping it as 1 here. Because if we see here minus 17,
Mm-hmm.
when we were considering as a difference, which I am checking at 20 if any minus 17 is present or not. Uh, as a common difference and ending at 20, it is not present. So if this will not come in the if condition here, and it will directly jump to line 35. And here in line 35, the answer would be the length of the current sequence added with the previous term. So which is 1. So the length of this current sequence was just include the ith term, and the previous sequence would be just include the jth term. So this is just 2 if the value is not present, and if it is present, just copy the value itself. And when we are copying the value, since I'm including the current ith term, so just add +1. So this is keep tracking of the both the edge cases. And whenever I update it, I just need to find my max of all the updates. So X is the common difference here, and I is the current it current index where the sequence or the arithmetic sequence is ending.
Right.
But anyways, if you use an unordered map or ordered map, this will give a timeout. So let's see why this gives a timeout. Because the nested for loops will run for 10 to the power 6 iterations in worst case. And when I am trying to search a particular element in the map, this will take logarithmic factor uh, for the average case. And if there are multiple collisions, then this might take the size of the map itself. So this is why either way, if we use unordered map or the unordered map, this will give a time limit exceed error. So these are the two. Uh, so these are the two solutions where I used both unordered and ordered maps, and there I got a time limit exceed error. But all the test cases were passing, but the solution was pretty slow.
Yeah. So because on line
So
32, sorry to interrupt
yeah,
you. So when you are actually doing this find, so that is also almost linear operation, right?
yeah, but
Is
in
it-
ordered map, this will be
Yeah. So in
logarithmic.
order it will be log, but otherwise it will
Yeah,
be a linear in this case.
yeah, and I did not wanted to use dp of j of x.
Uh-huh.
The reason is simple, because if this value is not present, uh, if this value is not present, when I just try to access this value, this value will be pushed in the map again with a value with uh, key as x and the value at 0. So
Okay. Yeah.
this will just
Hmm.
keep increasing the dp size or
Right.
the
Right.
map size.
Yeah.
So to get rid of that, here first I check if that particular difference is present or not. If it is present, then only take the value.
Hmm. Yeah.
So
Makes
how
sense.
to optimize this? We can just use the fact that let's see, the at max the value can be 500.
Hmm.
So let's try to see what can be the max and min value of the common difference of the adjacent terms. So I'll just take out all this. Yeah. So the smallest term is 0 and the largest term is 500.
Hmm.
So what can be the minimum value of the adjacent difference? It will be minus 500.
Hmm.
this cannot go beyond minus 500 because
Mhm.
if we take 0 as the current element and 500 as the previous element,
Mhm.
the difference will be come out to be minus 500.
Mhm.
That can be the minimum possible common difference.
Mhm.
And what can be the maximum possible common difference? It would be
Mhm.
500 for this particular case only. 500 minus 0 would be 500 plus 500.
Mhm.
But since the values, some of the common difference values were negative, this is why to keep track of them, we were using a map. But uh, we can just shift this particular range
Mhm.
in some positive value such that I don't have to use a map for quick access. So if I shift the value,
0 to 1000.
let's say I add 500 here. So here we are just shifting the origin.
Hmm.
So we just add 500 to our origin. Now the minus 500 will point to 0th index
Mhm.
and the plus 500 will point to 1000th index if it is 0 based. Now the all the quick search options to check at 20. Yeah, to check, for example, to check at 3 if a common difference of 12 is present or not.
Mhm.
I can just do dp of the index of 3, let's say I, and then since I'm searching minus 12, I'll just do minus 12 plus 500. So this is when I am just shifting my origin. So this is why this value will always come out to be positive, and then uh, uh, we will get rid of the logarithmic or linear factor while searching the given element in the map.
Mhm. So because of this trick only, actually you are able to pass all the lead code test cases, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Because the previous one, what you did was an optimized version, absolutely right. But if you don't
yeah,
use this trick, then none of them are going to pass. Or
yeah.
they will pass, but they will at least TLE there because it's taking
Yeah,
longer time.
it says that the solution passes all test cases, but it is slow.
Right, right. Yeah, that makes sense. So
Yeah,
we don't
so
have any other option but to use this, correct? This trick.
yeah, we just
So this
shift
trick
the
is very important
uh,
here.
yeah, we should just shift the origin here.
Hmm. Yeah, you just shift the
So
origin. Yeah.
here we are just using the here we are just using the constraint, but instead of setting this as plus 500, we could even use the max element of the given array. So here we can just keep 20 because at max, if 20 is the max element, if the minimum element is 0, so the minimum difference would be 20
Minus
and will
20
not
degrees.
go beyond 20. So this
Yeah.
is why instead of going with this 500, we can also go for the maximum value in the given vector. But again, we have to again iterate through the whole vector and find the max element.
Mhm. Yeah, makes sense.
Yes. So instead to get rid of all those cases, we can just use the constraint itself and take 500 plus 500 the our city origin.
Right.
Yes, so for the implementation, this is just similar to the previous one, but here I am declaring a vector of size n cross 1001. So 1001 because I need the common difference from 0 to 1000. And
Mhm.
I will initialize all values with 1 because if there is no element present, then I can take 1 as my, as if I include just the current element, so 1 is my uh, current arithmetic sequence. This is same as declaring a integer vector of n cross. So it is just a two-dimensional vector of n cross 1000 as a dimension, and then initializing all the values to 1. And answer to be 1. This is just same as the previous one. We set the answer to be 1. and we just iterate through all the points here, and the difference is added with plus 500 as the offset, and we just this step is just same as the uh, same thing we do in uh, the LIS problem, which is 1 plus dp
Mhm.
of j of x.
Yeah.
Increasing the length.
Yeah, in that we actually use a single dimensional array, but here you have to use for that difference, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, like Abhishek has written only. This is a normal one approach. Like I'm creating a LIS only, creating a DP array for every element. I'll have a map, right? And we'll go through each of the what do you say array element, and till ith index I'll check the difference, and in that particular element, like in this map, this is the map corresponding to some element. If I find there is a difference with this, I mean this particular difference occurs in that particular hash map, then you can increase the length by one. Otherwise, like by default, you'll put two, because at least two elements should be there, right, for forming one AP. I mean, if it's a new difference, then on like 6, 9, so two elements will be there with a difference of 3, and you just keep on maximizing the max length. Right? Am I audible?
Yeah, you are audible.
Okay.
And
Mm-hmm.
so the way you are doing here is actually taking the difference.
Mm-hmm.
And so one question to Abhishek also on that. Abhishek, so if you could have done it this way for the second solution where you are TLing, will that would have been an okay way to do it, or that wasn't possible at all? Hmm. Yeah, you can't actually go and find index the diff, right?
Hmm. But he used that 500 a nice way to optimize
Yeah,
the
that is
space.
a way, because that is the only way it was actually in C++. Maybe Python might. Does it pass in your case, Shashank,
Yeah, it
all your
passes.
test cases?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I think time is bad.
Yeah,
Oh,
I
time
think
is so
in
it's a use time, right? So,
Python, this is same as doing the direct access and not searching it at first. So this is why it will pass in Python.
well, no, see, Abhishek, he is also taking 3 seconds. That is too much of time.
Yeah, yeah.
Even though it is showing, so that won't be an really optimized. Okay, as per interview per se, it's fine. But as per the lead code, whatever the test cases or whatever they are putting in,
Hmm.
because people are actually submitting a very efficient solution, therefore the time actually decreases, right? And
Right.
therefore it's not passing in his case also. Okay, yeah, makes sense.
Yeah, then we can move to next.
Yeah.
So
So
here you
that
have to
trick is
find
the only way to do whatever he
500.
explained that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm,
Hmm.
okay.
He's referencing between positive values. So this is your max depth of an array tree. An array tree is given. You have to find the max depth, and what do you say? The max depth is the number of nodes along the longest path from root to the farthest leaf node. So here like 1, 2, and 3. I mean 1, 3, and 5. 3 nodes are there in that, so that is the max depth is 3. And here like it should be 1, 3, 7. So 3 to 5. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, so it is an array tree, and then it's like a tree or maybe a graph, almost,
Mm,
right?
yeah.
So it's a
Rooted
tree
graph.
plus graph, you can say, yeah. Hmm.
Yeah.
And so if we use the generic traversal mechanisms or the method what we have, those approaches, any of them, they should be fine, correct?
Two. Yeah. Only we have to explore for rather than two children left and right. Couple of children will be there. Like extra for loop you'll be using at that point
Hmm.
while doing the recursion. Yeah.
Right. So in this case, either you use a BFS or you use a DFS, either of should work.
Mhm.
Only the implementations will be different.
different. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So using a BFS will be a slightly lengthy way of doing it, but only thing is it's an iterative way and you won't miss any of the recursive challenges, correct?
Yeah, that's the advantage of it.
Yeah. Or else doing a recursive way is also okay. And it's not that difficult though in this case. Okay.
Couple of things.
Yeah. So in this case, do you have, if we just follow the BFS way, okay, or even the DFS way, do you really have to use a visited array?
Visited, no, because we'll be
No,
going for good.
And why? Then why?
yeah, this is instead of taking it as an array tree, we can just think it as a binary tree itself. But instead of going for left and right, we just have a vector of children's.
Mhm.
So, so this is why I think the same approach which we take in the simple BFS or DFS traversal of a binary tree can be used here.
Right, right. So that is the reason we don't need any visited, right? If
So,
we think about the graph way, yeah.
yeah, yeah. So for the BFS one, we'll set the level as one for the root node. When we come to the next level, we can set it, just increment it. Similarly, we just keep incrementing the levels, and the final level would be our answer.
Right.
Yeah.
So if I go with the approach quickly, we just set a queue of the node star, and
Mhm.
then the answer would be zero at first. And if the root exists, then we push it. Otherwise, it will just jump to the 17th line. And then for each of the iterations in the or each of the levels, we will first increase our level, and then we'll find how many elements are present at the particular level, and we will just take out the particular node, and we will just iterate through all the childrens of that particular node and push it again in the queue. So this is just same as if left is present, push it. If right is present, push it.
Right.
Here, instead of left and right, we have children. So just iterate through the node dot children, and all the child will be pushed in the queue.
Yeah, makes
Makes
sense.
sense. Hmm.
Yeah. So this is just exactly same as the binary tree level order traversal, but instead of the for loop, there we have if the node left exists, push, and if node right exists, then push in the queue.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And for the DFS one, we can always start from the root node, and we can go to the all the children nodes, and then the place where the no children is present, it will just call
No.
back. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, so this will just return 1 plus 1, then this will return 2.
Hmm.
Similarly, this will return 3,
Yeah.
and this will return 4. So this is for the first children. For the second children, it will return 1, and for the third children, it will return 2. And out of 4, 1, and 2, we can take the maximum, which is 4.
Yeah.
Right.
Makes sense. Only a for loop extra you'll have to use for rather
So
than you're doing left,
the
right.
only
Yeah. Yeah, good.
yeah, so this is the BFS one. If root exists, if root does not exist, just return zero because there is no root though node children node present. If the node is present or the root node is not null, then we just include that particular node. And now we just iterate through all the children, and we just try to maximize our max depth. So this one is added to include that particular parent, and this max depth will give me the max depth out of all the child nodes of the particular parent, and then just return the answer. So if it does not go in this for loop, this means that this is a leaf node. For example, for 4, I need to return 1. So this is why I've initialized answer with 1, because for 4 there is no children present, so it will not iterate in the for loop. But I need to return 1 as my answer for 4, so I just return the answer. This is why it is initialized with 1.
Yep. Perfect. So DFS and BFS both approach covered, right? Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah.
Yeah. So I have, I think, yes, to check it. Yeah. So I'm initializing a what you say, global variable, and calling a helper function. So if the root is not what you say null, then you increase the depth and then explore for all the children. You call this helper function, right? Like what Abhishek was saying. Like for every children, they'll return the depth to the root from leaf to the root, right? And at
Mhm.
that, once you reach the root, you I mean at every point you just keep on what you say maximizing whatever the current depth you got. If it is greater than the previous one, you just update it. And at
Okay,
last,
so that's the max so far you're doing here.
yeah,
Okay,
line number
so
17.
yours is a DFS way.
DFS.
Okay, so you're passing a depth as a variable which
Uh,
is inside the function signature on line 12. Okay, and then you're incrementing it. Now you're using that to increment your max depth, which is your max so
yeah,
far.
yeah. Okay.
Hmm. Okay, so this is also good.